All right, here we have Brian. So you get a very smooth stroke, which is good. There's not a lot of wasted motion or excessive rotation, anything like that. Excuse me. Your forward extension is pretty good. Could be a little better. Usually that comes from continued swimming, thinking about flexibility, thinking about extending forward as well as possible. But your extension's pretty good, and your body position is good. Your hips and legs are not riding too low in the water, and as your speed increases, you'll actually plane up a little more. So no concerns there. Head motion when you turn to breathe is fine. You could make the argument that you'd try to turn a little less, but I mean that's getting real nitty-gritty, so it's not something I'd worry about. And your kick is good. It's supporting your strokes and supporting the timing of your strokes. Now, one thing I would work on is that I think the tempo of your strokes could be quicker. So even when you're bringing your arms around, you could speed that up a bit. And the underwater pull I'll talk about when we get to the underwater portion. It looks like it's a pretty good pull. The idea with harder pulls, or what I call power stroke, is that you really put a lot of muscular force into the pull. Yeah, I'd say just a little bit of an increase on the recovery. That's when your arm is out of the water as a recovery. So if you could bring those arms around just a little quicker, that will help with your speed. Another thing you can look at to notice how the extension is going is how much space is there in between your shoulder and your head at the apex of the extension. So if there's a little gap there, then that's generally a sign that there's room for improvement on the extension. This is a 50 where you're swimming at a harder effort or a slightly harder effort. And I like to get this angle because you can see that your body is doing a very good job of staying in one plane, right, in a streamlined position. There's not excessive hip motion side to side. Your torso is not rotating, and I see that a lot. So that's very good. That streamlined position actually makes quite a bit of difference in a long swim, especially when you get up to the Ironman distance. Now we talked about that shoulder issue, and if you pause it there, you can see that right arm sometimes pulls really wide. So right here, that's going to put excessive strain on your rotator cuff, the sort of soft tissues that are in there. So just when you are pulling with that right, try to keep it in a little tighter. You don't need to pull in under your body, but you just want to make sure that you're not pulling really, really wide out. So with the pull, it's a little bit of what I call the elbow slipping through the water, or the elbow leading the stroke back on that right one, on your left one. And then that right one is sort of in between the straight arm pull where you push down and pull back, and a bit of the elbow leading the stroke. So what you want to graduate to is that high elbow catch position, or early vertical forearm position.
This is catch up, thinking about the catch.
Both of those, you just got to work on the technique. You got to drill that motion, and I think we went over that in the pool quite a bit.
The body position is pretty good here.
So it's, you extend forward, and then the elbow pivots up. You get internal shoulder rotation, and then start your catch and pull through there. Now, this is catch-up drill, so you're doing a good job here. Good extension. You can see how you're closing that gap between your shoulder and your head. So catch-up drill, you work on two things. You work on long extension and you also work on the high elbow catch. If you have difficulty focusing on both of them at the same time, then work on one and then the other, which I think is what we did during this.
Alright, this is catch up, just thinking about real long extension.
So one arm drill, you can do it two ways. The easier way here is where you leave that opposite arm extended and then really just work on a good extension and a good catch. And you're doing this correctly here. Just try to do the best you can to leave that left arm extended without bringing it back when you're taking these strokes. But that just takes a little bit of practice.
That's weird. I keep wanting to pull that left hand back.
Right.
And then fist drill. Fist drill, the idea is to try to get the best grip on the water that you can using your forearms, basically, because not quite as sensitive as your hands, but there's a lot of surface area there, so closing your hands into fists helps you sort of identify that area. And you still do the high elbow catch or early vertical forearm, and really try to pull your way through the water just using essentially your forearms and your fists. Then you open your hands back up and you feel all that surface area. All right, and then back to some underwater. This is where we, after everything, you just tried to focus on the catch. So improved, still room for improvement, a little better than right at the beginning. All right, and at the end of this clip, there's going to be a few still frames for you to check out, real slow-mo, how you look when you swim. So at this point, that elbow should be really coming up. So just a little, you need to initiate the elbow catch a little earlier. That's your left arm. All right, so right arm. Same thing. At that point, you'd already want the elbow bent, hand and forearm going vertical. So it's sort of a straight arm pull to this point. Then you start to get some of the internal rotation with your forearm. So keep working on it, but pretty good all in all.